Hi guys, it's Mrs. Grimaldi. I'm back with another edition of our First Chapter Fridays, and this week I am bringing you a mystery. It is green in our library collection, so if you're looking for a mystery or a thriller, you will find that by looking for these green labels. This week, the book I am going to talk to you about is called Burning Blue. The cover is not my favorite, so don't judge the book by the cover this week. Just kind of listen to the story and the summary and judge the book by that and not the cover. So it's not my favorite cover, so don't look at that. This is the story about Nicole Castro. In the summary of the book, she is described as the most beautiful girl in school. She's won these beauty pageants. Everybody looks up to her because she's so gorgeous and that sort of thing. Well, one day at school, she's in the hallway and somebody, we're not sure who, walks up to her and has a squirt bottle and sprays her with acid. And so it essentially burns the entire left side of her face and leaves it scarred and all marked up. So this is the story of Jay, who is a schoolmate of Nicole's, who has this like unrelenting desire to figure out who it is that sprayed her with the acid and what their motivation was. And that story, and then we get little tidbits of Nicole's story with her journal entries in here. So I like this book because I like that it's told from Jay's perspective, and then I like the little bits of Nicole's journal entries in here as well. So I'm going to read you the first chapter from this book, Burning Blue. It's by Paul Griffin. This is chapter 1. I was at the cemetery when it happened. I didn't even know Nicole at the time. Well, I knew of her. Everybody did. She'd won the high-profile beauty competition the year before, the under-16 division. She'd been on the front page of a lot of newspapers. People in the pageant world were saying she was sure to win Miss New Jersey. I had seen her in the halls and hungered for her from afar like every other dude at the Hollows. But we hadn't talked. Not yet. Still, that afternoon, that moment, when that first molecule pierced her skin, was the beginning of our connection, one that led me into a darkness that was as twisted as it was sublime. The water brought us together, the storm. The sky was horrific, a dark, dirty green. According to Maps Google, Pinemont Cemetery and Brandywine Hollows High School are 4.11 miles apart. But Nicole and I were bound by the rain. It was something that day so strange, too hard to be liquid, too cold for the second Thursday of September. It smashed my mother's gravestone, a nothing special marker the size of a high-top shoebox. The first burst of a downpour ricocheted upward at my eyes and stung my face like a sucker punch. I'd cut my last 2 classes to clock an extra hour on my shift card after my boss texted that a lot of people had called in sick. I'd often stop by the cemetery on my way to work. I loved the quiet, but with the rain, I didn't linger. I was chasing down the bus, dodging the spray the wheels drew from a lake-like puddle that exact moment that Nicole was hit. She was with Dave Bendix, our wrestling team captain, and thought by many, me included, to be one of the nicest guys in school. He was definitely the most popular. This was just before last period. They were messing around in a cutout in the lockers past the Sea Wing water fountain by the windows that overlooked the creek. They'd been together maybe 5 months. Nicole would tell me later that up to this point, Dave was a sweetheart and a total gent. But that afternoon, he was jacked up on too many Red Bulls or whatever, desperate. He wouldn't let her go. He kept saying, "One last kiss." The first bell had rung, and the last few stragglers were moping toward their classes. Dave was playing safecracker, circling Nicole's belly button with his fingertips. She had to get to AP Chem. Mr. Sabatini, chairman of her science program, was looking for a reason to ruin her. He dreamed of being the next big farm sellout and ended up at the Hollows. The man reeked of bitterness and schnapps. He loved to knock down anybody who looked like he was going to one-up him. You're late to his class and you get docked in a very big way. 30 points off of the midterm. Nicole had already been late once, thanks to another impromptu makeout session with Dave. The second bell rang, and the hallway was empty. Nicole wriggled out of Dave's hug and ran for the circle that connects A and B to Sea Wings. Whatever your concept of gorgeous, Nicole Castro trumped it all. Tall, thin, but not too round in all the right places. Long chestnut hair, More than that, her face, her lips full, pouty, except back when she was always smiling. High cheekbones, no need for makeup, not a blemish to cover. It was unassailable, her splendor. Almost unassailable. She hooked left for B-Wing. She turned back briefly to airmail a kiss off the tip of her index finger to Dave, but he wasn't there anymore. She sagged for a second and then spun away for Mr. Sabatini's class. She was halfway into her turn when it happened. Life as she knew it, gone. Took maybe half a second. The last thing she saw was the squirt bottle coming up toward her face, a squeeze machine wrapped in orange foam, and then the lightning bolt. That's the end of the first chapter. The second chapter starts with an email. So here's the start. Each chapter with the email starts with the subject, the date, the to, and the from. So this was sent moments after the attack. The subject, the new Nicole. The date, September 9th at 2:13 p.m. to Assistant Principal Nadine Marks. Now she's beautiful. That's it. The first person to hear her scream was Dave Bendix. Not that Nicole could see him with her eyes clamped shut. When one gets hit, the other reflexively closes down to protect what's left of your vision. Trying to wipe off the acid made the situation worse. She burned her hands. Interestingly, Dave had the presence of mind not to touch Nicole, even before she stopped screaming, and long enough to weep. It burns! I don't know that I would have been that smart. I probably would have been like everybody else in that situation. You find somebody writhing on the floor, covering her face and screaming, and you instinctively try to peel her hands away to see what the problem is. Not Dave, though. He told Nicole to stop rubbing her eye, that she was only going to spread the burn. From what I heard, the classrooms emptied into the halls. Everybody had to see what all the screaming was about. Nicole managed to get out that someone had squirted something into her face, and everybody was asking, who? Who? Only Mr. Sager, one of our custodians, realized that right now the primary question was, what? What did he squirt? Nicole didn't know, but whatever it was still burning, and she begged, please get it off, I can't see. Mr. Sager wrapped his hand in a rag towel and pried away Nicole's hands. He told a girl with a water bottle to douse the burn. Everybody with a water bottle did the same. Nicole couldn't breathe. The water filled her mouth and throat. She was choking on it when Mr. Sager told them to stop. In his statement to the police, Mr. Sager reported that Dave Bendix slid down the wall and said, I'm sorry, Nick, I'm so sorry. And that's the end of chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Burning Blue. And then the rest of the book goes through, and the next chapter you get is Nicole's journal. And then you get a little bit of chapters from Zach, who's trying to figure out who did this to Nicole and what their motivation was. So this is the mystery of why they did that and what the real reason was. So you can check that out at our library. Again, ignore the cover. It's not that great. Check that out at our library, or if you're interested in mystery, come look in the section with the green labels and find a different mystery, and we can help you get one as well. So that's your first chapter Friday. Thank you.